Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
When I found out I was going to be a parent, I immediately felt a lot of anxiety and worry. So I went on to BetterHelp to try to look for a therapist to help me with that.
My relationship with my family and with my boyfriend and with myself were suffering. I really needed help.
I was ruminating a lot. Really getting those thoughts out to a therapist and getting feedback was just life-changing.
Discover what BetterHelp Online Therapy can do for you. Visit BetterHelp.com today.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Magic, the podcast where we talk about everything that's happening in tech, gaming, fashion, innovation, you name it. We've got a pretty long episode today.
Yeah,
we have so much to talk about. Oh my goodness. And I'm always joined by my guest co-host, Lee Keebler. Lee, how you doing?
I'm great. Today was an interesting day.
Let's talk about the Super Bowl first, okay?
Did that happen? Was that a thing?
Did that happen? This will be, people listen to this on Wednesday, but we're recording on Monday, and It's like, I'm coming off of like a super high, not just because the Chiefs won. Yeah, good, woohoo, yay. But the Usher Bowl, the Usher Bowl was everything I expected it to be.
You and I were in Slack talking back and forth through that whole halftime.
Yeah, I was on trend. We were talking on this podcast a couple weeks ago, but that I was roller skating. And Usher comes out, halftime show, roller skating and stuff. But
shirt comes off.
Oh, I was in heaven. I was so happy.
I think Cathy might have just fainted a little.
Oh yeah, you were like, check on Cathy. Like, check on Cathy after this. It was nuts. My son actually grabbed the phone. I said, "Can you record mommy experiencing a little bit of this in a spatial video?" Because I was like, I just want to relive that memory when I'm like 80 years old and can't dance. Because I was having the time of my life in my kids' like playroom, like just having.
It was
a
good show. It's
a good show.
The best comment I saw was Usher called in the 2006 Avengers, and they all assembled.
Ludacris, Jermaine Dupri,
Will.i.am was there.
Will.i.am, her, Alicia Keys, Lil Jon. I was just like, and they brought the A-Town, like they brought Atlanta.
It was such a good show.
Atlanta's home, and I like really felt it. I was like, this was the Atlanta Super Bowl that we wanted back when we had in Atlanta. Yeah. So that was awesome. I do want to say some tech stuff that I noticed.
What'd you notice?
Related to Apple Vision Pro and other stuff. So really cool. In Usher's video for Ruin, it's one of the songs from his new album. They actually use Gaussian splatting.
Yep.
By Radiance Fields. Radiance Field? Yeah, I think that's Radiance Fields. That's the name of the company. To do part of the model, the Gaussian splatting model. So, did you see that? Because that was pretty cool.
I did. Yeah, that was really neat. Yeah, it's kind of like, for those who are listening and can't really picture it, it's like a updated version of like that matrix zoom where it like does a fly around, but like that's the only way you can really like describe it, where people can kind of picture it in their head, but it's better. Like it's just, it's killer.
It's killer. So I love that. Then Diplo, I don't know how to pronounce Diplo. I guess Diplo. Diplo. There you go. I needed someone to say it. Diplo. Diplo actually showed up to the press conference wearing an Apple Vision Pro.
Oh, really? I
missed that. He showed up to the Apple Music press conference wearing his Vision Pro. He was like, "Hey, dude, like." So
I did see the T-Pain video that's making the circles.
Oh,
where
T-Pain's on the spatial train. T-Pain's on the spatial train. Tell folks about that because that was really
funny. I guess he went and got one. I don't know what mall he was at, but he was in a mall where he like went to an Apple store in a mall, got one, left, had the headset on, and was like, I'm never leaving this thing. Like, this is it. And he made some really funny observations and he like made a couple callbacks to like the Google Glass. And he's like, y'all made fun of the Google Glass and now I'm just done about it. Like, this is how I'm living now. I was like, yeah, okay. All right.
Go T-Pain.
Now, to be fair, in the back of my head, I am going, this is either he's legit like super hyped about it. And I do think he was like super hyped about it. You can tell about it. But he's also putting out some like music video content for the Apple Vision Pro. You can tell that like there's some content he's pushing out that's like really aiming for that spatial video.
Or maybe he's trying to get
stuff.
some of the Apple Music money. I mean, yay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course.
Maybe, right? But he was definitely on the train. So today I want to give people a little bit of a rundown because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. It's going to be an episode full of interesting conversations. Of course, we're going to talk about... Oh, yeah. Go.
First, let me say, anyone who got into the Super Bowl yesterday and you were biting your nails off at the end because it goes into overtime tied, okay? And that was everybody. It's completely Cathy's fault because it was just around halftime. It was either right before or a little bit after. I get a message from Cathy going, this is just not an exciting game. This is not. And then right after, just rocket ship and became one of the most nail-biting Super Bowls I've ever seen.
Later I was like, this just changed. It's a nail-biter. Because I was like, I am so like, after a halftime show, like I'm super pumped. Adrenaline was pumping. Like it's coming down. I'm like, what's going on with this game? Like, I'm like, and then boom. It was awesome.
Yeah, just like a rocket. So that was your fault. That was a great game.
It was awesome. So today we're going to definitely talk about more Apple Vision Pro because Lee went and got a demo. We're going to talk about New York Fashion Week a little bit. Some of the tech stuff we hear was on the runway, which always, of course, is one of my favorite things. We're going to talk about hardware and AI and things that are happening in that space with some new releases. And we're going to talk, about government and AI as well. And of course,
we got some legal stuff to
tons
cover.
Of gaming. Oh yeah, there's some legal stuff. Like there's we should get a lawyer, like an AI lawyer on the podcast. I think that'd be interesting.
Or AI that is a lawyer?
No. A lawyer that is trying to regulate AI. Yeah, no, a human lawyer.
I'm pretty sure AI could pass the bar.
I'm sure they could.
There's some pretty crappy lawyers out there.
There's some pretty bad lawyers out there. So yeah, I'm sure. Maybe an AI lawyer might be better than some of those crappy attorneys. So anyway, want to talk a little bit about Apple. So I was I'm an Apple developer, as everyone listening to this knows, because I love saying that. I'm just so proud of myself, to be honest. But
you did go last week. You were there.
Yeah, I was there last week. I was there all day Wednesday. You can't really talk about what you do at labs, but you can say you were there. So I was there all day Wednesday with one of my main developers for Spatial Dynamics. So that was really fun. And then Thursday, we were in New York. We had tons of meetings. Like the interest level for spatial computing and developing for Vision Pro and spatial interfaces is through the roof. Back-to-back meetings. I came home exhausted, but in a great way.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. Okay. Now, this is important because you hadn't gotten a demo.
No. So,
you got a demo.
Yeah, I did. I had a really interesting conversation with the people at Apple today. So for whatever reason, so I'm in Portland, Oregon, which I think most people who listen to this show know. And for whatever reason, Portland did not get Apple Vision Pros until the 6th of February. And they were immediately sold out. So the secret with Portland, and the reason it's actually kind of hard to get most new products at Apple in Portland, is because Portland is in a tax-free state. We don't have a sales tax. And we rest between Washington and California. So guess who comes and takes all of our Apple products?
Yeah, I am sure.
So like they cannot keep them in stock right now in Portland, which is great. That's a great thing. But Portland's kind of become the hub that everyone who's like wants one goes, because it's $3,500 and you're going to be saving a pretty good grip of money just on the sales tax of it. So,
I would have loved to save those taxes from two Vision Pros for sure.
Yeah. It's kind of gnarly. But I did finally go in and went through the demo. And it was much longer. I spent a lot more time than I think the normal like 30-minute thing. And so I had a really good person who had been demoing it quite a bit, and we had a long conversation. And I have so many thoughts on this product now that I've really spent a good amount of time.
Thoughts or questions?
Thoughts.
Okay. Tell me
I
more.
understand it. I really do.
Of course.
And I think what I'm surprised by is there's absolutely $3,500 worth of technology in this headset. That's not the same as $3,500 worth of value to the average user.
Amen. Well said.
So I get the price point after going through it. I see a lot of areas for improvement, and then a lot of areas that were so shockingly good that I was not expecting. So I loved the fully immersed mode. That was so crystal crisp and clear. But I will say, I was expecting more from the pass-through. It is the best pass-through I've seen.
Yeah.
It's the best pass-through I've seen. It's not spectacularly better than like the Quest 3 when it comes to colored pass-through. It's not so much better. It is better.
It is better.
It is better. It's undeniably better. But it's not not like transparent like you're looking through glass, right?
Yeah, and you haven't done with the Vario. Because I
have not done the Vario.
Pretty awesome pass-through too. But okay, keep going.
But it is fantastic. But as soon as I went in that fully immersive mode, that crystal clear look was something I'd never seen before. But I'll tell you what really got me. I'm sitting at the base of Mount Hood, which is one of the environments that it comes stocked with, which is hilarious from Portland, Oregon, because that's our mountain. And I'm just like, okay, take me somewhere I haven't been. But like that's what's in there. And it's just glorious. And then I looked down and I saw my hands.
Mm-hmm.
That realization that it was my real hands and the pass-through had perfectly cut the silhouette around my hands to where my hands were in 3-dimensional space and I am in the environment. And not only that, I'm wearing, because it's Portland, I'm wearing a hoodie, and it's like a windbreaker hoodie, so it's really kind of lumpy. And my entire arm is in it. It was my arm that got me. I understood the cutout of the hands, and I was like, this is really well done. But when I saw my arm, I spent way too much time just moving my sleeve around because to this day, I do not know how it's doing that. It so perfectly, I mean, it was a really billowy, kind of goofy hoodie that I was wearing.
Okay.
And so like all of the ridges were perfectly cut out. And that I wasn't expecting.
Well, that's why when people say like AI or like Apple and AI, I'm like, this thing has so much computer vision in it.
Yeah.
It is processing so much that Apple might not be like LLM, but there is so much AI in this device.
It's so good. And even when I was in that fully immersed mode, and it took me a little while to fully understand what was happening, because I turned the dial and everything went to Mount Hood. And then if I focused where someone was, like the person who I was talking with, they would ghostly come into view, and and they didn't tell me that it was going to happen. And I kept thinking in the back of my head, oh, maybe I didn't turn the dial far enough or something. And then I realized it was wherever my eyes looked. If there was a person in that point of view, it knew there was a person and would silhouette them in. So like even when you're fully immersed, there's no like risk of bumping into or like accidentally hitting. And I've hit a few people in VR. Like there's probably a couple OSHA problems.
You've stepped on your dog. Have you stepped on your dog as well?
I've not stepped on my dog, but that's because my dog can't climb the stairs to my office.
That's why. But no, I mean, yeah, like that's happened to me where I'm like, I'm so sorry, Arthur. Like I did not mean to step on your
yes. So like there are these things inside the headset that are fantastic. The eye tracking, the hand tracking, how all of that works together is so perfectly put together. And I was gobsmacked at the spatial video. That is it. Like that's the use case. There is a future. Someone listening right now is going to go start this company because there is a future company just in like leveraging AI to upscale and convert old home movies into this format. Yeah. It is unbelievable.
100%.
So like all of those things were great. I don't like the head strap.
Did you use the other one?
I didn't use the top strap. I used
the regular one, the one that they marketed,
the one that everyone likes. It's like I'm gonna be real. It's like someone took those like knitted Yeezys and said, "Okay, make a head strap out of it." Like, I don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's nice and cozy. Like, no.
It's cozy, but I am not convinced it's going to like withstand. And I think that's my hot take over the entire thing. Is like, my one hot take is that comfy band is comfy, but I just don't see, like, I'm in sneaker city, right? So we got like Adidas, and I literally live like really close to Adidas headquarters for the US, right? And so Yeezys were like everywhere, and and it's the rainiest, most mud puddled city in the world, and people would come out with Yeezys and these knitted Yeezys. I'm like, they're gonna last like a week. You can't do that. And I feel the same when I see that knitted head strap, and that's all I could.
That's all you. Oh my god!
It looked like a pair of Yeezys.
Don't give him any ideas. But it's an amazing device, though. I'm with you. There's definitely a lot of technology that went into this.
It's
lots of AI, computer vision. This is like seamless and beautiful.
It is so beautiful.
You know, like you saw my video. I was crying. Like, I got emotional.
Yeah. And as someone who like. A big chunk of my career, like my time when I was at Intel, Intel acquired, I think if I remember right, the name was Evoke, right? This was the same time that Apple acquired Next VR, and both Evoke and Next VR were doing, they were like scrapping for the rights for sports entities to do like 360 and VR content. And so like Vogue had a bunch of them, and then like Next VR had a bunch of them. So when I'm in the headset and they did some of the demo video for sports, that was like, I'm not gonna say emotional, but it was kind of like this really, like, I had a big grin on my face, because it was the realization of something that we were really striving for back in like 2019. So to see that, and to see it finally crystal clear, to see it in something that people will actually finally be able to experience, was a big realization for me as someone who worked on very similar projects. So like, I'm certain that was the leverage for Next VR, and they did a great job. It looked so good.
No, I'm super excited about it. I was having a conversation with a friend about it, spatial video, and like the future of the family photo. Like,
totally.
The progression of this, and I think I said this in the last episode, but I've got a good friend who works at Niantic who's getting married soon, and we've got a group chat, and I was like, no, like, all joking aside, I said, do you think he's going to film his wedding in spatial video? And everyone's like, you bet he is.
Yeah.
So I see like there's a business here, a moment here with like spatial video, the future of memories, the future of family photos, and the reason why eventually in a version 2, version 3, or an iPhone 16, when it gets more spatial capabilities, that the mass consumer will be like, I need to have this to relive those memories.
Totally.
Part of the value that you mentioned, that's not quite there yet. But part of the value will be in human to human connection and how we in those memories.
Now, what I'm looking forward to is like whatever they do with the iPhone 16, or like as these things change, because I will say I had a really good demo person, and he and I went deep into some of the more spec stuff. And we did a comparison of spatial video content shot on the iPhone 15 versus what was shot actually on the headset. The headset's better. The headset has more depth.
More depth. That would make sense.
Yeah,
right?
It does have more depth. Not that like the spatial video that came off, like, I mean, when I say it's better, I don't mean it's light years better. I had to A/B it and go back and forth and pick the one that I liked, and I could definitely you have to squint basically, but it is just a little bit more depth, a little bit more immersion. But if they can up the game of what the iPhone 15 is doing, and is doing very well even now, oh my gosh, like the whole thing's over.
That's where the business, like when people are like, well, this is like the naysayers, and they're like, this is a passing fad. I'm like, no, you're not understanding that it's not about advice. It's about computing, transforming. Computing will continue to evolve.
Yeah.
And this is what's taking us there. So
what really
not the only thing, but
it's not the only thing, but what really got me was I didn't think I'd like big screens floating. Like, honestly, like I've played with the idea of multiple screens in VR headsets, and in VR headsets that are even more comfortable than the Apple Vision Pro, right? That I could spend more time in. So I didn't really think I'd like the idea of just flat like screens spread out. But the way they did it makes sense. The value is in that combination of the eye and hand tracking, in it not having to be super deliberate. It was very much like, I meant to do this, but it's not in a way where I'm telling the computer to do it. The computer is recognizing my minute gestures and not misrecognizing minute gestures either. So like all of that was just amazing. If you zoom in on a document, you don't have to like reposition and do all the strange stuff. It's actually whatever you're looking at plus the gesture to zoom in on that document, and the text is legible. All of that is so well fine-tuned because we had eye tracking, we had hand tracking. For whatever reason, no one's combined the two in the way that Apple did it. Oh, that makes sense. Like, so there is so much value even in this iteration.
Yeah.
And I've been stealing your line, like, this is the worst Apple Vision Pro that we're ever going to have. And it is pretty amazing. My things that I don't like are so superficial.
And that's like amazing coming from you, because I mean, I've known you for a long time. Like, this is not typical. This is not a typical Lee Keebler review.
No. I'm a grumpy old man who has been wanting proper VR since 1995, and I very rarely have nice things to say about anything. And this, I came away going, I get it. Yeah, I get this.
So I was doing some demos for my son, and I was telling him, honey, think of your eyes as the mouse and your gestures, your fingers, like the pinch and stuff, as your clicker. And he totally got it. He was playing. I sent you a video.
Yeah.
Don't do this at home, people. All right. But we're watching the Super Bowl, and he was a little bored. It was before the halftime show. And he was a little bored. And I said, okay, come play some Fruit Ninja. So he got on Super Fruit Ninja in the Vision Pro, and he's playing. He's on his hoverboard. Okay. He's really good at his hoverboard. So he's on his hoverboard, and he's playing Fruit Ninja. And like, I sent you a video. I'm like, that's some skill.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a period of time where I could have done that. I don't remember it. But that was one of those things of like, you kind of have to be under 13 years old to be able to do those two things together. I don't know where we lose that level of coordination along our human experience.
Yeah.
But mine's gone. Like, I can't.
Well, that's why film yourself in spatial video, because when you're 80 and you can't dance to Usher, then you'll be like, okay, I lived it. I had this experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be, you know what I did find interesting about the halftime show? It wasn't super high tech.
It didn't need to.
It didn't need to be. I loved that they had it on the field. Like, the majority of it was on the field. It felt like a halftime show.
Well, as a dancer, like dancing on grass, kudos to Usher and all the dancers. I was just like, oh my gosh. And it felt like, you know what it felt like? Like a homecoming middle school game with the band marching and
the marching band was so good.
It was so nice. It felt like the party we all needed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I had a blast. I had so much fun.
Great show.
All right. So I did want to mention something for everyone listening to this. I put out my second article for the Harvard Business Review, where I got to talk to early adopters, including Lowe's, Elf Cosmetics, and also the PGA Tour, and also Hanifa, who is one of my clients at Spatial Dynamics, on what they are learning and how they're approaching the Apple Vision Pro and spatial computing as early adopters. Some great nuggets and tidbits in that article. We'll include a link. I've gotten so much great feedback on it from a lot of business people. And yeah, the interest is, we're getting a lot of interest at Spatial Dynamics, and I'm just thrilled. I'm just thrilled that we're such a young company and already getting calls from companies and brands and even investors asking about what we're doing. So I don't know.
What do you think, like, from all the conversations that you've had for your new venture, what's the standout thing that's surprising you the most?
I guess it feels more real than with metaverse.
Yeah. Okay.
It feels more real, or like less. I'll get questions like, "Can you build something?" Like an actual, instead of like, "Explain this to me," or like, "Let's wax poetic about the metaverse." It's more like, "Can you build a solution? Can you build this? Like, let's explore this. Let's do this." Right. So I think a little bit more of that very concrete, less fear, I guess. Because I think the people that we're getting calls from understand that this is not about mixed reality. This is not about the Vision Pro. This is about new form of computing, right? What comes after mobile computing, regardless of hardware, regardless, it's about starting to understand spatial as an interface.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the most interesting thing, that more serious. So
that's good to hear, because it does feel like the next gen technology, finally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that a lot of us who have been doing this for a long time have been waiting for that. And 100% it goes back to everyone asking when Apple, like for a decade, we've been hearing people ask, when does Apple get into it? So yeah, I can see that. And no one wants to bet against that either. Like that's just I
don't bet against Apple.
No.
Plus everyone's getting in. Like everyone's, it's starting to be like, okay, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to be really clear about something for people who like, because of my history of being kind of a technological pessimist. This does not negatively impact Meta in the Quest in any way. There's such a definitive difference between these two headsets that both actually need to exist.
It's good for them, actually.
It's great. It's great for both parties. And the best way I can explain it, and maybe this is not Meta's goal, but it is where we are, is there's a reason why people own a PlayStation 5, and there's a reason why people own a MacBook Pro. And nobody would argue that those are the same thing. Now, they're both technically computers. And so they technically both have an operating system and they both run software, but they're in completely different categories. Not even like they're on different levels. It's not about that. They're in different categories. And that took me a little while to fully grasp the difference there, because everyone wants to make a competitive analysis or comparison between Meta's headsets and now Apple Vision Pros in Apple's headsets, and it's a silly thing.
Apples to oranges, literally.
It really is apples to oranges, because I was talking with this actually with one of your developers, where there's this realization that the Meta headset, you load software and it takes you to wherever that software wants to take you. Whereas Apple's headset, you start software and it brings it to your space. And that's not saying one is better than the other. Those are just ideally two different experiences, and they have two different use cases. Like I don't think the gaming we see on the Meta Quest headset anytime soon, if ever, will be on the Apple Vision Pro. I really don't. Some of it, there will be some crossover. I think we're going to see Rec Room, and we might see like VR chat, and we'll see some of these other things pop up. But by and large, a lot of the really like tactile VR gaming stuff that absolutely requires controllers, absolutely requires like amazing 6 degrees of separation, or sixed off, like all of those things, that's going to be with the Quest for a long time, if not forever. Whereas the Apple Vision Pro is a completely different product. And it took me a while to fully come to terms that these two headsets do not compete.
I think that you make a good point, because the way I'm phrasing it to people is desktop computing brought computing to our desks, right? Yeah. Personal computing brought computing on the go. And I think with spatial computing, it brings computing to the space around us. To everything around us, right? So it's like this, if you want to kind of phrase it in that perspective of how it's evolving. So your point of bringing software to your space, I think it's very relevant. So I want to talk about gaming as our first segment, because there's so much happening in that space. We've got news right then on Thursday. So this comes out on Wednesday. On Thursday, Phil Spector and other folks from the Xbox team are going to talk about their future vision for Xbox. And kind of what they see things going. So rumors are that there's going to be games in the Switch. There's going to be different things that they're going to be expanding into. So what are your thoughts? I mean, huge.
It's huge, and it's a little confusing.
Oh, do tell. Why?
Because if I get the initial idea, and that is you're missing out on sales of your exclusive content, and your exclusive content can only sell on your hardware, and if your hardware is not doing, huge busting numbers, then you might invest all of this money into a game development that doesn't go that far. Now, Microsoft has always had one thing over PlayStation and even Nintendo, and that is even if a lot of their games, except for some of the things that they've deemed as exclusive, are also available for like PC because
well, Starfield,
Microsoft.
Right?
Yeah.
Starfield, which there was news that has lost 97% of its Steam players in the last 6 months. That's
not at all surprising. Like, one thing that's got to change is large companies thinking that and this is to everybody except for Nintendo. Nintendo's never made this mistake. But your 100-hour campaign game cannot get interesting 12 hours into it. Like, the fall off, people just don't have that type of. It's not that people don't have that type of attention span. And this has always gotten me when people are like, "Oh, people's attention spans are so short." I'm like, "Yeah, well, our video games literally last us years, so our attention spans can't be that short. It's just what we decide to put them in." But Starfield's just kind of a boring game. It's just not that interesting. There was so much involved with the procedurally generated blah 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 that, okay, great, you have this massive universe, and somebody's going to be mad at me for saying this, but our universe is kind of boring in a big way, right? The fact of the matter is it's so vast out there. We don't think about it living here on planet Earth, right? But it is so vast out there that there's just a lot of dead space where there's nothing. The majority of space is empty and boring. And so when this is your video game is empty and boring. So, and I kind of think it's a hubris thing from these.
Well, I mean, kind of it is, right?
It's a little bit, like, maybe? I don't know. So you got your braggadocious rights of how big you made your video game, but that doesn't make it interesting. And I will Hello Games, who did No Man's Sky.
Mm-hmm.
They started with this problem and they solved it. No Man's Sky was garbage when it came out. They would tell you that. We're talking a game that came out in 2016, 2017. So you had this procedurally generated video game. It was cutting edge for the time. You could go to, they said something crazy like a quintillion different planets, blah, 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 blah. See all of these different flora and fauna. And it was boring. But they fixed it. They kept going. And they made it one of the most interesting video games I've ever played. But at launch, it was garbage. And they've admitted it. And that was a Sony issue. They just went to push it, and they had to make it do what it do. So here's my thoughts on the Microsoft thing. I don't know how they pull this off without just becoming a gaming distribution platform.
Maybe that's the plan. I don't know.
So it's not a publisher, right? You have game publishers, and your game publisher would be
Activision.
Would be like Activision, right? And that's a whole different conversation.
That's a whole I don't know if I want to go there.
So you've got your game publisher. So Microsoft then is just distributing it to all of the other platforms. I don't understand what Microsoft's role is if it's not to make exclusive content for their hardware. Because then what point does the publisher just say, well, I can distribute it on the PlayStation and the Switch? I just don't understand what it is that they're proposing they fill a gap for that a publisher can't already do right now.
Well, I think that's why, I think you and I are going to be listening to that podcast, the podcast where we're going to make all those announcements, because I want to understand their vision, right? Their vision for the future of Xbox, but gaming as well, right? Because I think this is important to the gaming industry. This is a part of all the change that's coming.
Right.
when I heard you talking about some of the things that you're mentioning about these vast universes that are boring, I got reminded of this SNL skit, Saturday Night Live skit called "New Game." It's from like I don't know
this skit. I don't
oh
know
my
this
gosh,
skit.
you need to see it. It's like one of my kids' favorites.
Okay.
I don't let them watch everything, but sometimes there'll be funny ones. And this one is like a new VR game. Like Pete Davidson's like the main person. Kit Harington was like the guest. And like Pete Davidson goes to this like GameStop to try this new VR game, and he goes into this fully real VR game. But the whole thing is like he's trying to go shoot zombies, and like the NPCs like have this like toxic workplace drama going on. And he's like, I just want to go shoot zombies. And they're all like, this is so toxic. Do you know why Damien's doing this? We're gonna share a link because it's hilarious. People are gonna laugh. I think you're gonna find it hilarious. So it's about that, like added backstory that you did not need to have in this vast universe that exists in this game.
Yeah.
So it's
and I think that's a big part of it. I mean, it is a little shocking to see a number like 97% of the player base for Starfield fall off, but then I'm also not surprised. I'm just
from a marketing perspective, like the amount of money that was pumped into promoting it, all that stuff. I mean, oof.
And they've had a rough go of it because Fallout 4 did great. Then 76 that came out afterward, they kind of had the same problem.
Yeah,
they've been having a hard time. It's just almost like that. There's a balance to how big we can actually make a game while still keeping it interesting, and that is the thing that Nintendo does well, right? Like that's Nintendo games typically. Even a big game like Tears of the Kingdom, which is a Legend of Zelda game, which is relatively open world, is not so vast that you get bored. And there was been a couple of like design studies on like Breath of the Wild when that came out of how they kept people's attention no matter which direction you looked or where you went. That was a masterclass on what everyone else is doing wrong. And that's there's a limit. Like, stop trying to make a world with life and start making a game. We already have the world with life, right? Like I think that's the issue.
That's such a good point. And this actually leads us into a great conversation on, I think we have different views.
No, you and me, different views.
So of course, Disney, during their earnings call, shared that they have invested 1.5 billion stake in Epic Games.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to be creating an interoperable parallel universe with Disney IP. So it's not going to live inside Fortnite. It's going to be separate, but you're going to be able to go from one to another. So I got really excited. I think it was something I think personally Epic Games needed. From an investment standpoint, I also think it sets the path for Epic Games to eventually go public one day, pretty soonish. I would guess in the next 18 months to 24 months. That's my guess. I don't know anything, right? That's just my guess. I was excited about what it means for gaming, but you seem to have a very different perspective. And we'll share an article to the Forbes article that I got inspired and wrote about Generation Alpha and like why Disney makes sense for Disney and sense for Epic.
See, this is why the show works, though, because you're going to have a bunch of people who agree with you, and they're going to be fans of the show. And I'm going to have a bunch of people who agree with me, and they'll be fans of the show.
Yeah.
But they ain't going to be the same people.
No.
I'll tell you that right now. They're not the same people.
All right, so why do you think it's not a good thing for Epic Games, especially?
Well,
or in general, what are your thoughts?
I don't know what. I don't really fully understand what the $1.5 billion buys, right? Like, I get that it creates an offloaded kind of side game for Disney. I don't know if that costs $1.5 billion. That seems like people don't like, we throw the B word around a lot and don't really grasp how much money that is until like,
that's not a lot for Disney though.
It's
1.5 is a lot for Epic Games. It's not a lot for Disney. I mean, it's a lot of money for any of us. Granted,
I think. I'm looking something up. I'm trying to figure out what did they buy Star Wars for? They bought Star Wars for like $7 billion, something like that. I don't remember what it was.
Penguin for, what was it, 100 million? I can't remember. There's like some stats on when Disney's bought gaming IP and what they've done with.
Okay. So in 2012, Disney acquired Lucasfilms for $4 billion. Okay.
But they haven't acquired Epic Games. It's a strategic investment.
Right.
Stake in it.
Right. It's a stake.
So like if they go public one day, this is really good money. Like,
well, like first off, my problem is I don't necessarily think that video game engines going public is a good thing for the community.
Okay.
Like that it's a good thing for the investors. I kind of understand where it sort of has to happen. I can play that game. I can wrap my head around it. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that we saw Unity go through, a lot of the decisions they had to make in 2023 that really hurt their stock value as a shareholder, that was just painful to watch. Those decisions were solely made because they had investors and they had shareholders and they were trying to scramble ways to make the line go up. And that's not necessarily what is best for the product year over year. And we are kind of seeing that play out with Unity. Now, I do see Unity making some better decisions. They're looking towards a new CEO. They've walked back a lot of their divisive decisions that they tried to make. And I think they got a black eye for it, but they're going to survive this. Unity is an incredible piece of technology. They've got amazing partnerships. Their partnerships with Apple are going to be just a huge boon for them. And I see a lot of that happening with Unreal as well. And now, yes, Apple and Unreal, they've had their fights, they've had their public beef, and it goes back and forth. But you're silly if you think that Unreal's not going to be on the Apple Vision Pro as an engine. Like, it's an engine, it's going to do its thing.
Plus Disney plus Unreal on the Vision Pro.
Right.
I mean,
now, my other issue is it depends on how much control Disney allows Epic to continue to hold. And we've seen this happen before. So you got to kind of go with a little bit of your history here. And Kingdom Hearts was a Square Enix game that had a lot of Disney characters in it. Like, it was basically a Disney RPG mixed with Square Enix's stuff. But Square Enix had a lot of control over how they made those video games and how the gameplay was and all of this other stuff. And so the Kingdom Hearts series was really good. Now, Square Enix in their own right, they've been around for like 30, 40 years. They're the original RPG video game creators. They're video game royalty, and they'll always, be such. I think that's why they were able to demand, like, this is the control we have over, this is what we do. We're going to do it the way we do. So they make these great video games. If that 1 point whatever billion goes to Epic and they can continue leading the direction on Fortnite the way it needs to go, great. If it just turns into a Disney ad, I'm not so sure. I love Disney products. I grew up watching Disney movies like everybody else did. There's nothing wrong with Disney. That's not it. But Disney has a history of taking really popular things and then just ramming them into the ground. Like you are going to do this for the next 4 years until you're just tired of it. And
I don't think Tim Sweeney's going to let that happen. I'll be honest. I think there was probably a lot written into that stake, like into that agreement.
Marvel movies.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
I can't watch one more. Yeah. Maybe I can.
I mean, I was the fan that got in line every time a Marvel movie came out, and now I'm just beating my head against the wall every time they've.
It's oversaturated.
It's just oversaturated.
Why would I watch one more? Like, I've already lost the multiverse. I'm like, I don't even know what's going on in the multiverse anymore. Like,
and they did the same thing with Star Wars. As a Star Wars fan, I just got to a point where I'm just like, Disney, Disney used to do this thing called the Vault. Do you remember the Vault?
Oh my, you've talked about it. Yeah.
Like, the Disney Vault was marketing genius. They would put out a movie. It was when they had these iconic, really fat VHS cassette cases. Like, you knew it was a Disney movie based on, and they didn't fit on anyone's shelf. Yeah. Like, it did not match. There was these big plastic clamshell cases, and they came from the Disney Vault, and you knew what the movie in this was, a classic Disney movie, and they only sold them for a period of time, and then they put them back in the vault. So this was your period of time to buy it. they had this balance to not oversaturate a market where when it was available when it was.
That's impossible now in the streaming world, the streaming wars. Like you can't put things back in the vault.
Now you're just shoveling stuff out of the vault right into the furnace. I mean, it is just nonstop.
You're mutating what's in the vault at this point. Yeah, you're spawning new. Yeah,
it's too much.
You're respawning weird stuff from that. Like I don't know. Woo.
I don't know. Can it be good? Yeah, it can be good. I don't have the optimism that I think people who want to see Epic get an IPO have. And I'm not saying I don't want them to get an IPO. I'm just saying I don't have the sheer optimism. It could be good, but we've seen it go bad. We'll see what happens.
I'll tell you this. So I got a chance probably last year, October, to invest in the private and get some shares of Epic. I decided not to do it at that time. And when this announcement came out, I was like, man, I should have bought those shares. So now I'm sure that on the private, there's going to be people trying to mine more Epic because this could be really interesting. Like 2 of the gaming companies that I've talked about for a couple years now, about a year and a half, that I think could do an IPO soon are Niantic and Epic Games. I feel like they're heading in that direction.
You think Niantic could? I think
Niantic is going to need that eventually.
I like Niantic. You know, they're a fantastic company. You know, they're so close. You know, their office in Seattle is amazing. Like I think the world of them, but they just don't seem like big enough. I don't know how to really.
I don't know. I think that there's a whole hardware play for what they offer.
Yeah,
and the maps. They just joined one of the map consortiums.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that there's a lot more tech behind the company. Like when they acquired 60 AI, like the virtual positioning system. I think there's so much that is not just gaming with Niantic that they're a tech company to me.
I agree. They kind of have, but to me they kind of have the same problem that Snapchat has of like they have a lot of proprietary software and even hardware, and they have some amazing technology. Snapchat has some of the best technology on the planet, especially when it comes to facial recognition.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for them to properly leverage it and or license it or whatever their business development plan is for that to see where it goes. And I feel the same with Niantic. Every time I see Niantic come up, and these are great people, this is not a dig.
Yeah.
Every time that I see Niantic come up, it is synonymous with Pokemon Go. At some point, you have to stop talking about Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
That can't be the only trophy on the shelf, especially when you're sitting on so much amazing technology. I mean, their stuff really is world class.
To me, they're either IPO or acquisition. Remember at one point there was talk that Disney could acquire Electronic Arts, but boom, here's the investment, the 1.5 billion stake in Fortnite, right? In Epic Games.
Now, I could see them as an acquisition, and that makes a lot of sense. I just I'm not fully there on an again. I do think a lot of companies, because they feel like that there's a need to run towards the IPO, and it burns a lot of really good tech too fast, too bright.
And I don't know. Those are the ones that I've always said. I feel like they're heading there. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, it would not surprise me to see it with Epic because of their intellectual property that they own, but more because the engine in their engine. Unity's got an IPO. You know, they had an IPO, so like now
they have Twin Motion, they have Sketchfab. Like there's so many other things that Epic Games
that
have.
Sketchfab acquisition was great. I thought the Bandcamp camp acquisition was great. I was really shocked to see them offload that.
Yeah.
That
was sad when I heard they were like I was like, how are you? What? Like I was very surprised.
Yeah, that was kind of like they bought it and then immediately said, "JK, we don't actually want this." I don't know what happened behind the scenes or any of that. But the acquisition made sense when I saw it. I think a lot of people were confused. Why would you buy this like indie music distribution company? And I was like, well, because video games need music, and that's where I thought it was going. And then it didn't go there. So I don't know. All right.
So I think we're going to go on break. And now that it's February, we're back to expert interviews. We're going to do an expert interview with Nick Hill from Sawhorse. They've been doing amazing work with a lot of brands in virtual worlds and Roblox. They did Alo Yoga. I mean, I'm going to have a great conversation with Nick where we're talking a lot about, how brands enter the space, but also what it means when you don't frame things. Like, in regular 2D movies and films, you're framing, you're controlling what people are seeing. When you're in the gaming spaces, you don't really control that. It's kind of like they go and do what they want. So a great conversation with Nick Hill after this break, and then we'll continue with some more news.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD Advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
So today I'm joined by someone that I find fascinating, who's been doing really, really amazing, noteworthy work in the virtual worlds and gaming space. And I actually met him in person in LA at the Economist Metaverse event. It was lovely to kind of chat and learn that he also listens to the podcast. So Nick Hill, welcome to Tech Magic.
Hey, Cathy, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah, huge fan of the podcast. I'm really happy to be here.
Good. So Nick, a lot of folks know you in the space, right? A lot of my audience actually knows you or knows the work that you do. But for those of us that don't, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Awesome. So my name is Nick Hill. I am co-founder and head of the interactive department at Sawhorse. And Sawhorse is a traditional production company. We've been around for about 13 years. We started in the branded video digital space, so everything 2D linear storytelling. And then during the pandemic, we got into the metaverse space, building 3D immersive worlds on Roblox and other platforms for the same clients, brands, studios, and agencies. But instead of just telling, a 2D linear story, now we're telling like 3D immersive gamification for those same clients.
And do you tell folks a little bit about your background, like where you come from and how you ended up working in these virtual worlds and gaming spaces?
Yeah, so my background, come from like the creative side. I grew up really into movies, really into video games, and like just loved all of that. And then when I got a little bit older, I kind of gravitated more to the film side, film and video production. And a few of my buddies gravitated toward the gaming side, started to work at AAA studios and whatnot. And back then, there weren't all these UGC platforms and open platforms. So it wasn't as easy to make a game and have impact. So I totally abandoned those ideas of gamification and all that. And I just really leaned hard into video. And then just like I said, like the past 3 years, I finally got that opportunity to tell those stories in an immersive way. And, for me, it was like the handcuffs had been taken off creatively, because, I love film and video and storytelling in that way, but it's a little limiting. When you work with your audience, there's a beginning and a middle and an end, and you're fully controlling their attention, which is amazing. It's such a fascinating art. But when you add a layer of interactivity to storytelling, it just opens up the floodgates of creativity. And I've just fully embraced that side.
So, Nick, like you're mentioning, it's really interesting because I got my start at Future Lighthouse, which was a cinematic VR company, way ahead of its time. It obviously, as a startup, didn't go as far as we wanted it to. It's no longer around, but we always had this conversation about the frame, right? Because when you're working with traditional movies or traditional TV or traditional, flat image, experiences, there's a frame, right? And you control the frame. You control the attention of what the person is looking at and where their gaze should go and those sorts of things. And I feel like when we get into these more interactive spaces, like gaming, for example, and obviously spatial computing, which we'll talk about too, you can't control the frame, right? That the person that is playing the game or the person that's looking at specific content has the liberty, let's say, to do as they want to do. So it becomes more than storytelling. It's becomes story living, like many of us call it. What are your thoughts around that? Because it changes the way we interact with content.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a big jump. If you just look at traditional storytelling, I have a background in editing and directing. And some of the best directors in the world they're controlling your attention and your focus every single second of that movie. Like, for how long we're looking at this shot, what size the images are inside the shot, and the pacing of that, you're fully controlling people's attention span. And it's such a masterful art that people are mesmerized to it, which I have a lot of respect for, because if you think about it, it's a very boring medium. There's no interactivity. It's top down, yet people are captivated. The best films in the world, people will stare at the screen for 2 hours fully engaged in it. And I think when you open the frame up to a 3D immersive experience, it creates all these problems, because you can build the most beautiful scene and try to have an action that's happening there, but you can no longer control people's level of engagement of it. They have so much more freedom to explore the space and kind of go off into side quests and do whatever they want. So the challenge is you really have to figure out how to add layers of gamification and then somehow interweave story elements and story beats so that you're still taking them on a ride, but one that they have way more agency over.
And I feel like Sawhorse has been really successful at exactly that, of creating these very engaging experiences, right, for brands. How do you think brands should look at the gaming and virtual space? What do you think they should be thinking about when they look at entering these spaces?
That's a great question. I think the first question a brand should ask is relevancy. Do I have a purpose to show up in this space or not? Or if I show up, can I show up organically and authentically in a way that makes sense? I mean, there's a few examples that you've spoken about recently on the podcast that just weren't good fits, right? It was just kind of people get a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, why is this brand here? This doesn't work. So my first advice would be, understanding the audience of which platform you're going into. What are the people there like? What are they interested? What do they do there? And then, really focusing on brand ethos, figuring out what your brand is and what you're trying to say. And then how can you weave that in an organic way that resonates really well with the audience? I know it's kind of vague. Does that make sense?
No, I think it does. I mean, you guys have worked with some amazing brands. Maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the companies you've done great work with. We had, for example, Cynthia Miller, right, on the podcast. You guys have done lots of amazing work, but maybe talk a little bit about some of the companies you've partnered with.
Yeah. The first project that we did was for Aloe, the mindfulness yoga brand company of clothing. And I love that experience because it rides the line between being a game and an experience. And it's a kind of a tricky thing to do because a lot of brands will come to these platforms and they'll just straight up make a game. that I would argue is not really in line with the brand ethos. They've just made some sort of a simulator game or a tycoon game that it's a mechanic that we know works on the platform, but it doesn't really make sense for that brand, and I don't think it's really valuable to the users there. So with something like Alo Yoga, we brought like mindfulness to the metaverse is our tagline that we used, but we basically brought in guided meditations to Roblox, so users there could meditate, reflect on their life. We even like encourage them to step away from the keyboard or step away from the phone and just breathe, and it was tremendously successful. We gamified it. So, it's classified as a game, but I would argue that it's more leaning on the experimental side. And those are the ones that I like the most.
And I feel like the Alo Yoga one is still one of those that was incredibly successful, is a go-to for a lot of people. It was just beautifully done and perfectly captured, like, I think the ethos of both the brand, but also what they are giving to their audience, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like every brand has a message and a core ethos. If you drill down, you try to understand what value are they giving to their communities beyond just buying and selling of products. So yeah, I mean, just leaning into that and trying to extract that and gamify it and bring it to life in a 3D immersive way and offer real value to the users there. I have this thing that I've been saying a lot recently, and I kind of love it. It's, marketing doesn't have to suck. And I feel like we're at this point with the UGC space that's really exciting to me, because a lot of traditional marketing is top down. If you look at the example of like a billboard or a commercial, I mean, these are pretty intrusive mediums, like you're enjoying your life driving down the street, or you're enjoying a show, and then all of a sudden, like, bam, you're blocked. And the message is essentially, look at this thing and buy it. And I would argue that that's not additive to somebody's life. But with these UGC platforms, essentially we're making immersive ads that users are choosing to opt into, which to me is like fascinating. People are choosing to go spend time in this immersive world that was created by this brand, and they're getting something that makes their life better. So in that sense, marketing and advertising doesn't have to suck. It can be a good thing that people enjoy, and that makes their life actually more enjoyable or fun.
That's interesting you mentioned that, because it is a sea change. And I think like not all, but most marketing departments totally do not understand this shift, right? This monumental shift in marketing and engaging with Gen Z and Gen Alpha and, even millennials that are in the gaming space. There's a really great article from The Information. It's an opinion piece by Andrew Rosen, where he talks about how a lot of media executives want gaming, but most of the people that are running some of these bigger things happening in corporate America are ill-suited to run them, because they're not gamers, or they don't understand the culture, or they don't understand kind of what this means, right? So I definitely want to talk a little bit about, as you guys have been so successful, some of those best practices, right? How do people level up, right? Don't give away the secret sauce or anything. It's more like, what are some of the tidbits that anyone listening to this can walk away with and maybe bring to their leadership, right? Who might be like maybe chomping at the bit at gaming now, because they hear what Disney's doing, or they see what Netflix is doing, and they want to maybe say, hey, I think we should bring the brand into these virtual spaces. Like, what are some of the things that they can level up their knowledge with, that they can then go back to their C-suite and say, hey, I think we should do this?
Yeah, I love that question. I think the key is really listening. It's a new medium, and it's a new space. I like to describe it as you're stepping into someone else's community. It's not the way traditional marketing works. You can't just buy space there and blast it in front of people's faces and hope that it's going to resonate. It doesn't work like that. So what you have to do is you have to understand these communities. You have to understand these platforms. So my advice would be to do your research. Listen to this podcast, read articles, have conversations with studios like Sawhorse and others. And I think once you have a decent knowledge base, I'd also say play the games. It's not that hard.
I'm with you.
Just jump in, make an account. Most of them are free. There's a little bit of a learning curve at first. It's like, how do I move my character around? But you get over that fairly quickly. And then you can experience it as they're experiencing it. And I would say if you think something's lame or something's not fun, well, guess what? It's probably not fun to the people that are there either. So, you don't have to become like a hardcore gamer or some sort of expert, but you should be knowledgeable about the space that you're planning on activating within. And then the second piece I would say is like, just, you need to trust your studio. You need to listen. Obviously marketing executives and marketing teams are experts in what they do. But if they don't necessarily understand the space and they're hiring a studio to help advise them, I would say listen and be collaborative, because some of the rules that you have to apply are counterintuitive. They might be like, that's very strange. We would never make a UGC item that's a massive backpack that's 3 times the size of the character. But things like that resonate really well with the people at the platform. So you kind of have to keep an open mind and actually have some experience and some background in like what's happening on these platforms.
That's fantastic advice. I do agree. And definitely, one of the things I'm seeing as well is like they need to lean into people, like team members. Like if you're in the corporate side, if you're on the brand side, there might be people that are already gamers that know the environment. You're just not tapping into their expertise. It doesn't mean they can develop the game. You normally have to work with, a studio like you guys, but they will bring a lot of knowledge about the platform and about the gaming space that you didn't tap into before because you never really asked. So I definitely see that as well.
Yeah, I love that. That makes so much sense. There's usually somebody on the team that plays games, or used to, 5 years ago.
Used to, yeah.
And I think that's the one thing, like if you understand the core loop, like if you get dropped into a game and you actually can connect with it, that's how you know something's going to be sticky or something's going to kind of work. And, if you've never played games, you might not be able to detect that. But to your point, Cathy, I think if someone on the team has a somewhat of a background in gaming, throw them in, and even if they're not leading the project, have them review the work in progress and kind of experience it and give some feedback throughout the whole process.
It's funny that you mentioned that path, like the gamer path, because I feel like mine was similar. Like I was like, when I was like a gamer girl, was definitely Street Fighter,
yes,
Mortal Kombat, early days, right?
Me too.
Which in hindsight, it's like, wow, that was pretty graphic stuff. But hey, we had a great time. I would play with all my friends. We'd have all these like, neighborhood championships, like our little esports, now that I think about it. And I stopped playing for a long time. And then I got back into it with Roblox, especially when my kids started playing, and now it's like Roblox and Fortnite. And then I play some indie games with them. And I'm really bad at Mario Kart, but it's okay. But I feel like I have embraced that gamer side of myself that I let go of a long time ago, because I was like, oh no, this is not, this is not cool anymore. Or like, this is not what my other friends are doing. And I've re-embraced that. And I think a lot of people that listen to this might be like, well, that was me. That was me back in the 90s or the 2000s. And so I feel like also the word gamer, right? There's this whole like baggage attached to it that I'm like, there doesn't need to be baggage. It's actually really cool to be a gamer. Any thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. So much to unpack there. I mean, I'm kind of the same way with you. Like I was big into games and then I kind of stopped and I got into the film side. And then I didn't play games for a long time. But when I got back into this interactive stuff and building on Roblox, now I'm like playing more Roblox game. I'm playing more, mobile games. And like I'm playing Marvel Snap right now, and I'm learning so much because I'm understanding the core loops, the game psychology, design. And it's like, oh, I understand why they're doing this. I understand why they're doing that. This is what we should implement on this project and then that project. And, you really start to get into like the theory of what makes games work and good. And then you have to like start applying that stuff. Obviously, there's, tremendously talented game designers that you'll be working with on all your projects, but, and they're superior to that stuff than me and other people. But it's like having an understanding of that is really valuable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And what do you like when you, let's say, look towards the future, right? Because I feel like the gaming virtual world space, AI is moving super fast, right? But I feel like the gaming space as well. Like I feel like every week there's news and there's all these things happening. I even joke, and I joked about this on an article I wrote for Forbes. I said, it feels like every company now is a gaming company. At the time when it was like every company's a tech company, I was like,
Yeah.
no, right? You're a real estate company. You're not a tech company. I feel like now it's starting to be like every company's a gaming company. When you look towards the next 5 years, and that's really hard, right? Because of the fast, pace of change. What are some of the things that you envision or that you're excited about when you look at that future?
Yeah, well, I would say I tend to agree with you. I mean, maybe not everything is a gaming company, but I think that almost every company is an interactive company. Because media has become more interactive. If you since Web 2 and then going into Web 3, it's allowing your clients and customers to interact and like do more than just read a website or fill out a form or watch a video. Now they're commenting, they're having discussions about what you're doing. And now with these 3D immersive platforms, they're building and they're sharing and they're playing and they're earning. So I think that like any company that wants to stay relevant has to embrace interactivity to one level or another. It doesn't have to be a core game loop, but it has to be more than what we currently have in our landscape. I think there's a lot of that coming in the near future. And also, I would just ask you as well. I was just so fascinated by the concept of the metaverse, and I look at it what it is today, and it's so far from the vision. Like I've read a lot of your work, I've listened to all of the main podcasts, and I've just like drank the Kool-Aid and went so deep down the rabbit hole. But when you think about like Ready Player Me and Snow Crash, you're talking about a fully immersive, perfect world that feels just like reality. And I know we're going to get there. Experts say like 10 years, maybe less. But that's fascinating to me. I think there's no stopping that. I think once, we're creatures of experience. We love to experience things with our friends and family and travel and live. And I feel like once the fidelity gets to that level, it's gonna be, there's gonna be no stopping it. It's gonna be fully embraced. And I think if you look at how brands are going to interact at that point, right now, the gaming and the metaverse the fidelity is so low and it's so flat that it's hard for people to show up in the normal way that their brand would, because they have to leverage gamification to make it fun or make it engaging and work. What I'm fascinated about is in the future, once the fidelity and immersion levels are so high, brands can just show up and do what they do. So an example, like a clothing company, they're just going to make the best digital clothing. They don't have to worry about a core loop. Or you look at it like a delivery service, like UPS or DHL. They're going to lean into file packet delivery systems. How can we deliver units from this platform to that platform? And right now, you can't really do that. Right now, like UPS is showing up in how can I make the UPS simulator? Because that's all you can do. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned like sci-fi, right? Ready Player One and Snow Crash. I always tell people that I love those both. Of course, I read them. There's a book called Rainbow's End by Vernor Vinge, and it just turned 20. I don't know. It's been a long time since he published it. It is a fantastic sci-fi. It's still dystopic a little bit. Yeah, definitely dystopic. But I definitely recommend that people read it as well because it's a different perspective. Unlike Snow Crash or unlike Ready Player One, it's not about full immersion. This is actually more about glasses that overlay data in front of you. So it's not you going into a headset into a fully immersive world that kind of replaces the world around you. This is more you walking around with. This is a history, a sci-fi future where we don't use computers anymore. Like we use these glasses and these devices, right? So for me, and when people ask me that, I say I feel like I hope the future is not so much Ready Player One. I want the graphics. Don't get me wrong. I want the high fidelity in the graphics. It's amazing. But I hope it's less Ready Player One and maybe more Jarvis. Yeah. So like, I feel like that might be, at least from that perspective, I hope it's more a Jarvis device, right? From, when Iron Man's using it, or even Tom Holland, the Spider-Man is using it, they're collaborating with this AI on their glasses and even on the plane, and they're solving all these problems and doing all these sorts of things. So I feel personally that I like that vision a little bit more. I'm not saying, that it should be Werner Vinge's vision, but I definitely recommend people read Rainbow's End from that perspective, because I find it fascinating, the juxtaposition of some of the visions of what the future could be. So I don't know, I'm a true optimist about the future. I have to remain optimistic as a mother of 3 children. My hope is that, we do good things in this world. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about what the future will be for those brands. I do think that brands are going to need to adapt. They're going to need to be more interactive, exactly like you said. And they're going to need to realize that that it's no longer top down, right? It's going to be one-to-one. It's going to be the brand directly working with the person, right? It's what Zoe Scaman calls the multiplayer brand. I love that concept, and it starts to land the plane a little bit for brands, understanding that they don't necessarily have control. And another part of this puzzle, Nick, since you asked, is that I see this younger generation, right? They're going into corporate America with built-in audiences. Corporate America is very much about controlling the message, right? That's a lot of what is done in PR and comms. When you start to have this younger generation that comes into the workforce with a built-in audience, you can no longer necessarily control the message. So I think corporate America in general is going to have to adapt and change to that interactivity and that fluidity of information that is going to come with that Gen Z, bigger numbers of Gen Z in the workforce, and Gen Alpha, right, being 10% of the workforce by 2030. So that in itself is going to enact change in corporate America and lead to more interactivity, both internally and also externally.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's a good thing. I think even with Web 2, having people allowing a voice to have a conversation about the way that they're feeling about something and sharing that all over socials, and having that impact, we're just going to see more of that in the future. And I think it's going to be more difficult for corporate America just to tell people that this is the way it is, deal with it. It's going to be more like an open conversation, and they're not going to be able to hide as much. I think
I need to come up with we need to come up with a term together. Instead of Mad Men, it's not the age of Mad Men, it's the age of whatever that is. I don't know what it is, but I need to sit down and think about this. Like
the people that are making the advertising world suck less.
Yes.
That's us. It doesn't have a good ring to it.
Game makers. I don't know. I like the concept of going from gamer to game maker. I've been kind of thinking through that a lot in my evolution myself as I start to get more technical and be more of a developer, going from a gamer to a game maker. I find that really interesting. So anyway, but yeah, Nick, anything else you want to add?
No, I just like you. I'm an optimist. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. I'm extremely excited about what brands can do and how they can activate within these communities and reach people and give them something of value. This stuff makes me really happy and excited, and I just can't wait to keep building.
Awesome. And for folks that want to reach out to Sawhorse and to you, how can they connect?
Yeah, so our site is sawhorsela.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Nick Hill, NICHILL. And yeah, always looking to collaborate and push the envelope.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for being on Tech Magic.
Thank you, Cathy. And thank you for all your amazing work. I'm going to keep listening.
Thank you. All right. So yeah, that was Nick Hill from Sawhorse. Great folks over there.
I'm a big fan of Sawhorse. I discovered Sawhorse. I think they did the Elton John experience in Roblox, and that was one of the earliest worlds where I went into it and was just like, "Whoa, this is pretty."
Yeah.
Roblox was always kind of seen as a lot of fun, really dynamic, but it wasn't known for its graphics. And that Elton John experience was a next level of fidelity that I was just immediately enamored with. Really a lot of fun in that. And that's kind of how I discovered them. Great team down there.
Yeah, great team. Nick's a fantastic guy. So loved having him on the pod. All right. So now I want to go into our 2 other sections where it's going to be AI heavy. I feel like any tech podcast is AI heavy. I think we're different because we talk a lot more about spatial computing, XR, and gaming. But let's go into AI world. Before we do go into the AI section, I do want to mention for anyone listening to this, you've probably already seen this, but we've launched a 4-episode limited run podcast called AIQ. It is sponsored by Microsoft. We've had, an amazing episode with Jenny Nicholson that came out on Friday. It's only 4 episodes, But the whole purpose is for you to level up your AI knowledge. Everyone that we're interviewing is really sharing great tips for anyone out there. So if you're a listener of Tech Magic, definitely check out AIQ. It comes out every Friday. And yeah, let us know if you like that kind of format. If that, those kind of limited run podcasts are something that you want to see more of us doing. And if you're a brand and you want to sponsor one, definitely reach out. It's something that we're really interested in kind of leaning into. So let's go into AI. Let's start with the not so exciting part, but very important. The government and AI and things that are happening. So the FCC.
That is the exciting part.
That's the exciting part? I don't know. I'm more excited about the hardware, but yeah, sure. From where it comes to actually like our lives, yes, very important. The FCC has declared that AI-generated voices in robocalls are illegal. So yay. Good job, FCC, in getting ahead of this.
It only took a fake robocall from the president of the United States for them to finally go, you know what? Maybe this is going too far.
Maybe it's not good. Yeah.
I am all for this. This to me is the exciting news. When people it's an election year, I'm not going to give my political opinions or biases in any of this, but I will say this. When people elect a president, they often are not thinking about who they're electing affecting the FCC. And it always changes when an election happens. And whoever is leading the FCC moves the needle for technology in ways that the average person doesn't take into consideration. And I witnessed that happen when we were trying to turn, when a lot of us were fighting to see the internet at least somewhat regulated or at least somewhat treated as a utility. And we're seeing some of the negativity of what we've basically acquired by not doing that now. And so the fact that the FCC immediately stepped in and said, yeah, your robocalls cannot use this technology. Thank God, because that was going to get messy. And this is not just about politics. I think people need to realize, like, this is how people were going to scam people. Like, these were real issues that were happening. Imagine getting a phone call from like loved ones and it's not actually them. And that you just can't allow.
You just can't allow it, right? Yeah. There's also the story of that guy, I think it was in Hong Kong, a bank guy who just got scammed out of $25 million through fake AI voices and stuff. Even Lori Siegel from who used to be at 60 Minutes, she's the one that interviewed me for 60 Minutes back in the day when I was on it a couple of years ago. And I get to say that. But anyway, she's actually doing a lot of work when it comes to everything that happened with Taylor Swift and these, AI created, pornographic images that were all over X. She was talking about a human password, and that a lot of like these, tech experts are telling her to use a human password. They said what we call it in my house is a family safe word, right? That is a word that we do not like. We don't write down. It's not. We don't talk about it in front of Alexa or anything. It's like it's a word that we all know. That is very, very much only known by our family, right? And that is the word that I will know if I am talking to my children. It is actually my children, and not not an AI. So there was actually an ad during the Super Bowl with Jennifer Coolidge where she's calling. I think it was Discovery. And she's talking to customer service, and she's like, "Oh, you sound much like a human." She's like, "I am a human." Oh, wow! And then like the human turn, like the customer service is like, "Are you a robot?" And she just starts. It's like, how do I prove that? So it made me think a lot about the AI ads and like different perspectives that were shown.
And it needs to be. We need to like have this resolved now, and thankfully, this is at least outlined. Of it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means it's not legal, right? Like I think that does need to be declared of like that does not mean for anyone listening, you don't have to worry about this. You absolutely have to worry about this, but at least there is some legality standing up to like if someone gets caught.
Well, and I think this year we're going to get a lot of this. So also a federal judge has rejected arguments from Stability AI, Midjourney, and DeviantArt. That the suit is intended to suppress its free speech. So basically the headline is AI companies take hits as judge says artists have public interest in pursuing lawsuits. So these lawsuits are going to continue. It is not defending their free speech. This is what this federal judge is saying.
And it's the right call, right? Like it's a ridiculous claim. I take issue with companies claiming First Amendment rights. Like, you're a company. And I'll be really clear. The second that you can take your company and you can separate it from being a liability to your personal life, then it's no longer, if you don't have liability in the company, then the company shouldn't have all of these rights that are inalienable to the actual person themselves. You got an LLC. It's a limited liability company. You've made that separation, and in that separation should go those rights. That might be a strong stance for too many people, but DeviantArt, I'm sorry, you don't have a First Amendment right. Like, you just compared it to the people who are like actually being affected by you. And I do think DeviantArt has the most stance. I think that they're most position because they didn't start with any AI. So there's a terms of service. You agreed to upload your artwork. That's all in the fine print. That's part of the cost of it being a free service. Now, that I think they have like legality. They have some standing there. I get that. When you start looking at just pure AI companies that are now like scraping data that is protected or whatever, okay, that's a different conversation. So I think DeviantArt may actually come out of this one okay. The other one's not so much. But I don't think the whole argument of you're infringing. No, you're not infringing on anything. Come on.
So I think we'll see a lot more from the courts, obviously, this year when it comes to AI and regulation and.
Well, and that worries me too, because quite frankly, our courts need more education in how this technology transpires. There's just not enough people that are doing that level of important work that also have the drive to like understand the nuance. There's so much education that has to happen to the court before the court can even like make a decision or make heads or tails of it.
That's a bit of a gripe I have. And I love the folks at the patent office. But sometimes some of the patents that are approved, I'm just like, this person has absolutely no idea how far reaching this patent is. And they don't understand what they approved. So I was having this conversation with someone that was showing me this new tech, and they're telling me like how they're, they get their patents approved, and that was great. But then I did bring up, like, I've seen some patents, not theirs, that I was like, this person has absolutely no idea what they just approved.
Yeah, it's like a napkin sketch and somehow it gets like, approved.
What? Like, this is far overreaching. Like, how do you approve this patent is beyond my perspective, like blows my mind. I want to move into another section with AI. This is going to be our last section. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. But a lot of moves in the hardware space, right? So we talked about Vision Pro. There's a lot of computer vision already in that device that I don't think people are realizing how far ahead Apple is when it comes to AI, when it comes to computer vision and some of the stuff they're doing there. And they work behind the scenes. They're working on all their large language models and all that stuff. So once Tim Cook comes out with this big announcement, like, it'll be interesting. But there's a lot of other moves. I was reminded of how Apple had acquired Mira Labs. Do you remember Mira?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was Amy Webb that posted on her LinkedIn, and she was wearing the Mira headset because she was doing the Mario Kart, experience. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Mira Labs. And then I reminded her, like, on her post, I said, oh, by the way, you probably already know this, but this company was acquired by Apple. Right. So signal, right. This is a big signal of like things to come and how this is going to start progressing. But lots of stuff moving and shaking when it comes to hardware and AI. Brilliant Labs has launched framed glasses. There are multimodal. They serve as a multimodal AI assistant. An ex-Apple employee revealed the new smart glasses with an AI-powered twist. So it is by an ex-Apple employee. They're the ones that had monocle. I don't remember the little monocle. Now they have frames. I just ordered mine.
They actually look good too. I like
they're
how
cute. I ordered them in black. So
yeah, this was the first set that I looked at and was just like, this doesn't look like tech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's right up there with like the Ray-Bans with what Meta's trying to do and like all of that. So it'll be interesting to see that race, which is a completely different race from like the HMD world. Looking at it from wearables that can subsequently also fill in a fashion gap. It's so interesting.
Well, they're all going to collide. At some point, it's going to be a fashion choice, and we're all going to look amazing in our Ray-Bans. Yeah. I call it the Ray-Ban moment before Meta partner before they made claim that. But yeah, I mean, they have their micro LED. They do visual analysis powered by OpenAI. They do search powered by Perplexity. They're doing all these like integrations, which I thought was really interesting. Are you going to buy some? Like, what are your thoughts?
I need to know a little bit more of like what I can do to customize lenses and things like that.
You can do that. You can do prescription lenses.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
I'll look more into it because I just want to. I get weird about cameras on glasses. I don't know what it is. I've got so many VR headsets that have cameras. Yeah, I know. I don't. I didn't claim that it made sense. Okay, like I never said that it made sense.
I think it's 12. Yeah, I might be wrong on the number, but yeah.
I'm interested. I've read up on it. It's got some heavy hitters that are backing it. Having OpenAI as a I have definitely become an OpenAI fanboy for sure. So that's huge in there as well. So we'll see. I'm going to let it simmer for a little bit and see what comes of it.
This is an interesting conversation that I keep having, and I had with the reporter today. And I said, look, every time you're engaging with ChatGPT, right, or whichever, if you're using Copilot or whatever, Gemini, you're engaging with it on a computer, like your phone or your computer. So what we're talking about here is that these are containers where you're engaging with AI. So all the AI companies are hardware motivated because they need to put their AI somewhere, right, for you to engage with it in more and more ways. So this is, when you talk about spatial computing, is as much a hardware play as it is a software play. Just want to remind people that, because I'm like, you're engaging with this on your phone and your computer. This is as much a hardware play as it is a software play.
What it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an early adopter, but I'm not an instant adopter.
That's me. I'm an instant adopter.
Yeah.
I'm the guinea pig. I'm like, I've bought already so many of these like new devices.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for them to get here. I'm like, oh, when does this one come in? Or Kickstarter. I used to be like the worst. I'm like, I'm supporting this, and I never get the stuff. I'm an I should have more impulse control. I just throw money at these things. I'm like,
someone's got to do it.
Give me that hardware, and then it's like a paperweight. No pun intended to my devices in the back. I love you guys. Anyway, other news, Hainan Airlines is handing out Rokit AR glasses for in-flight entertainment. Last week they started handing out Rokit's augmented reality glasses on a few routes for in-flight entertainment. I found this interesting because in my trip on the way to Apple to New York, I went to New York Labs. I actually wore the device. It was an evening flight. I'm not a, what's the word not glass hole. What's the new word?
I don't know.
Vision bros. So they're now called Vision Bros. Like all the people that are wearing it, driving their Tesla and walking on the street in New York and flying an airplane. Don't do it. Don't be a Vision Bro. And it's mostly men. But I wore mine on the plane to watch entertainment. I wasn't walking around.
I think the airplane totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I really do.
And it was super fun. It was a little grainy because it's dark. So like when it's really dark, not necessarily the best pass-through situation, but still I could see most everything around me. And people were like, I could see a person turning around and taking a picture of me because they were like, what is this lady doing? So that was interesting, but I can definitely see this as an entertainment, a device, multiple devices that we might want to use on an airplane to entertain ourselves.
When the Oculus Go came out, right?
non 6 degrees
of freedom.
Like
the Oculus Go. When the Oculus Go came out, I was traveling so often that I bought one just for airplanes because you could put a video player on it, you could load it full of movies, and you could watch movies in the Oculus Go. So like I've been on that trend. But the thing that it didn't have was this stability, which supposedly the Apple Vision Pro has like an airplane mode. That's not just airplane mode, but it has a travel mode, which fixes a lot of that like airplane movement. How is that?
It wasn't great for me. It will say tracking lost. It did happen. And it wasn't necessarily a bumpy ride. Like it wasn't like it's a short flight from New York to DC, from DC to New York. But it did say a couple times tracking lost. So it wasn't perfect. And like I said, at evening pass through, not the best experience.
Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting that it's just interesting that airlines are experimenting with this. And it's becoming a new era for kind of proof of concept testing. It's almost like you've got a tube full of guinea pigs. Let's see who actually wants to try this stuff. Is kind of an interesting approach for technology. Because you've got. I think I've used the Rokit augmented glasses one time, and I think it was like at a booth at AWE last year, and they were pretty cool. But to actually be able to have them as a service to normies, like people who've maybe never done this, is definitely an interesting approach. I think
but it is mostly for an Asian market, which tends to be more tech forward.
Sure.
I feel like they're so like into this stuff, like so much more than our side of the world.
Every time I see video from like Singapore or something like that,
Japan,
and I see
Singapore, Korea, it's like
I see their technology that's out in public, and I'm just like, what are we doing over here?
They've been playing with their phones forever. Like
we are cavemen comparative to some of the stuff that I've seen, like in South Korea, like just some of the video of like, this is how their street lamps work and this is what their vending machines look like. I'm like, they got robots, y'all. We are so far behind.
I'm with you. It's interesting to watch how different it is. All right. So I did say we were going to talk a little bit about New York Fashion Week because it's the beginning of Fashion Month.
My favorite.
Of course your favorite, Lee. My favorite. I didn't get to make it. I wasn't in New York for Fashion Week because I'm busy with a whole bunch of other stuff. But excited to share that Adobe's Primrose dress, the one that we talked about on our podcast, made its runway debut. Made its runway debut. Chris Cowan, one of the designers that was showing in New York, closed the show with the Project Primrose dress. That was beautiful and made its debut. I got the information probably a couple hours before the show. And in hindsight, like I think personally, these PR teams should have had more tech people in the front row when you're unveiling a technical dress, not just your typical suspects that are going to write about the fashion. But I don't think any of the tech people that cover this were front row, which I think it's a big miss for any of these brands. So Adobe and your in your PR team, I think you could have done better by inviting folks to the Chris Cowan front row. But hey, it's okay. I'll get invited to more. But yeah, there wasn't that much.
This is the dress that like adapts to different patterns and stuff like that. Yeah. And the dress you can't sit down in.
I don't know if you can sit down, but you can definitely walk the catwalk with it. It's beautiful. But yeah, they were working on it for a couple of months. It's beautiful. The model closed the show with it, a big hit. One, first of many, I'm sure, that we'll see, throughout Fashion Month. But yeah,
I'm so
Project
curious
Primrose.
as to how that's how that's powered, right? Like there's so many technological questions I have because it is neat. It is.
There's a whole video. We can include a link. There's a whole video that explains kind of the process on how they worked on it. They designed it in paper, like a whole bunch of stuff. Super interesting.
See, I want to know if when you're walking, it's slowly charging the actual dress because
interesting. I don't think it's charging from your body heat or your body energy. We're not there yet with these types of fabrics, at least not with that dress. But yeah, it made its debut, and I wanted to share that because
that's awesome.
Fashion's one of my loves. But yeah, we didn't not that at least what I've seen so far in Fashion Week New York's almost over. Not a lot of technology, a lot of back to the regular way of doing fashion.
Textiles.
But I have a feeling, and I already starting to get some of those calls, that by September, we are going to see a lot more spatial video, a lot more fashion, a lot more fashion brands, stylists, all sorts of folks using spatial video in new content formats.
Yeah.
And that makes me super excited for Fashion Month of September.
Content,
we still have to, there's still Paris, there's still Milan, there's still London Fashion Week coming up for Fashion Month. So I'm sure we'll see more tech probably in Paris. Yeah, I don't know. Exciting times. Project Primrose made its debut. All right, Lee. So let's talk a little bit about Dispatch from the Fringe. So Lily is going to join us as usual to do her Dispatch from the Fringe, which is usually pretty interesting. What are you hoping for this?
I never know what comes with, like, it could be
anything.
It could be anything. It's always something wild that I was just like, that's a story.
Lily. You go, producer Lily. All right, Lily, tell us what Dispatch from the Fringe is this week.
Hello, Cathy and Lee. Welcome to this week's Dispatch from the Fringe. This week, I'm bringing you VPPs, Virtual Power Plants. That's right. It's not just the Apple Vision Pro that's bringing everyone online in a virtual immersive way. Power plants are too. All right, not exactly, but I'm sure a spatial power plant is in the mix somewhere. So virtual power plants are a system of distributed energy resources like rooftop solar panels, electric vehicle chargers, and smart water heaters that work together to balance energy supply and demand on a large scale. So this helps keep costs down and prevent grids from getting overburdened. Think about a smart thermostat in your home. It's linked to air conditioning. And with a VPP, it can adjust the temperatures of your home and manage how much electricity your unit consumes. So on hot summer days, it can pre-cool homes before peak hours when air conditioning usually surges. So this can help stagger cooling times and can prevent abrupt demand hikes that might overwhelm the grid and cause outages. So virtual power plants don't have a central physical location, but they're really a portfolio of resources. And they have the ability to shape consumers' energy use in real time because they can communicate with distributed energy resources. Now, VPPs still have some things to overcome. For instance, virtual power plants differ from state to state and across companies. But by standardizing the deployment of virtual power plants, this could lead to a new industry as professionals in the space learn how to best practice and implement and interface with customers. That's your dispatch from the Fringe.
All right. Well, yeah, how virtual power plants are shaping tomorrow's energy system. Virtual power plants.
Makes sense. It makes sense.
Makes sense. You know, virtual computers, virtual power plants.
Yeah.
Makes total
Anytime
sense.
you can run simulation. I'm always a fan.
Anything that can be digital will be anything that can be digitized will be digitized.
Or already is.
Yeah, it already is in some ways, right? And we're heading more into that world. All right, so this episode, like I said, it ran a little long, but we had a lot to talk about. Our big advice is don't be vision bros.
Please.
Don't do that, please. But yeah, I think just a lot of stuff. This is moving super fast. I feel like every week there's more and more news in this.
It's not going to let up. It's going to, at least it gives our podcast meaning. There's a reason for us to show up next week.
There's always something to talk about, which I absolutely love. And I love that we talk about a whole bunch of stuff. We're not just one track mind. Like this is like,
that'd be boring.
So many things.
It's a little bit for everybody.
A little bit for everyone. So thanks to everyone that listened. Nick Hill, who we interviewed, is actually one of our listeners. So Nick, thank you. So yeah, Lee, thanks for being here for episode 18. It's been a joy. It's been fabulous. Thank you. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for listening to Tech Magic, where you come for the tech and stay for the magic. We'll be back next week. And remember, you can check out AIQ, a 4-episode limited run podcast that helps you level up your AI knowledge. So we'll be back next week. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back with more magic next week.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Yetis, this is Nick and Jack from the Best One Yet podcast. Now, the last company we worked at, they used Paylocity and everything just worked. It wasn't until launching our own media business, this show, that we realized how rare that is.
Because Paylocity is one delicious burrito of operational needs. They roll up HR, finance, and IT seamlessly into one delicious bite.
When everything wraps together like that all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You don't even need cilantro.
You need one solution.
And that is why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next.
Or as we call it, a delicious operational burrito.
Yes, we do. Experience a one place for all your HCM needs, besties.
So start now at Paylocity.com/one.
Paylocity.com/ONE.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.